Space, the final frontier. These are the unboxings of Euler's Workshop. I got Data. So this is Lieutenant Commander Data in 1/6 scale from a company called EXO-6, which you may or may not have heard of. They have been producing really banger 1/6 scale Star Trek related action figures for quite some time now. I couldn't pass on this. Data is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction, period, whether it's Star Trek or any other property. A close second would probably be Geordi LaForge, of which I know they are currently producing one of those figures amongst the many, many others that they've done from all different Star Trek series. So, first impressions is I'm actually pretty surprised at how clean this looks. Not that I thought it was not going to be clean or anything, but I just I didn't know what to expect. I've never ordered anything from EXO-6. I am friends with Anthony Vladarsky, who you see on the back there, labeled as their videographer. If you scan this QR code on the back, it takes you to the video that he produced, which basically is the instructions for this figure. He runs a channel called 6 Scale Mafia. Shout out to Anthony and all the fun stuff that he does over there on his channel. Promise my review will not be biased at all. I was really excited to get this and see what the quality was like. If I'm happy with this figure, because the price I think is reasonable, and if the quality is good, I may consider getting a couple of others. So he comes with two hands initially, as you see here on this front tray. He comes with a tricorder and tricorder carrying case. Both the tricorder and the carrying case are magnetic, so you don't have to worry about breaking a tiny hinge, which I think is actually pretty smart on EXO-6's design team's choice. I think that was really wise. And the phaser itself is well designed, well executed, has a little phaser holster, and everything there, again, is also magnetic, so you can magnet those two things onto Data's waist. You don't have to worry about breaking anything, tearing any fabric, which is really, really great. I appreciate them incorporating magnets. I wish more companies took the time to design their things to do that, because it's much easier for the collector, and it's also safer for the small accessories in the long run. I think it's harder to break them in most cases, depending on how you design them. In the second tray that is underneath, because I got the sort of deluxe version, which they call the SX version, it has a few extra items. We get two versions of Data's cat Spot here, one where he can kind of be sitting on the side of a chair or laying in Data's arms. He comes with three additional hands, two fists, and one where he's, I think it's a data pad holding hand, or it can be one where he's petting Spot. As you saw in the thumbnail, I used it to have him kneel down and pet Spot, which I think is adorable and kind of says everything I love about the character of Data. Also, he comes with the really, really cool head sculpt with the removable side of his head to access his positronic neural network, as I think I remember it being called. It's been a while since I've actually watched anything from Next Generation, but I did watch all of it growing up many times with my mom. It's kind of funny. I really love Next Generation. I love Voyager, and I enjoy Deep Space Nine. I seem to have ended up watching Voyager with my dad, who I spent every other weekend with, and watching Next Generation with my mom. I don't know if it had to do with just when the shows were on, but it seemed to always work out that way, where me and my dad were watching Janeway and 7 of 9 and Chakotay and everybody over in the Voyager crew, so I was always talking about that with my dad. And with Next Generation, I was always talking with my mom about Riker, Data, Geordi, Dr. Crusher, whatever, so on and so forth. And I don't know, in my mind, they're separated. One's for one parent, one's for another. Just a weird thing from my past, but I love both shows equally. I also enjoyed Deep Space Nine, but it's something about the show and the age I was when it had come out. I just wasn't entirely engaged in the story and the characters. I liked Cisco, I liked Quark, I liked Kira, I loved Odo, just because he was so cool. I always gravitated towards this sort of novel characters like Data and Geordi and Odo and 7 of 9. You know, they were just something, they stood out as novel and interesting, but they also fit within the family of the crew they belong to. I've been telling myself I got to go back and watch Deep Space Nine one of these days, but it's a lot of watching and a lot of time that I don't really have. So maybe one of these days, maybe when I'm working here in the workshop, working on dioramas and building art and things that I normally do here on the channel. By the way, like and subscribe if you're into that. If you'd like to learn how to make your own set piece for your Lieutenant Commander Data or any other action figure or collectible that you have, whether it's miniature or doll related, that's what I do here. I build things, especially in miniature and dioramas, and other things that tickle my fancy that have to do with pop culture, special effects, and science fiction. It's another reason I gravitate towards the character of Data. That whole positronic brain thing I just thought was so cool when I was younger. The fact that Geordi could open him up and fiddle with his brain, just thought it was cool. Also have a connection to Geordi. My actual name is not Euler, believe it or not. That's my steampunk character's name. My name is Jordan, and my grandmother used to call me Jordy. And I'm pretty sure she picked that up from the Next Generation. We'd watch Next Generation when we visit my grandma, and my grandma would call me Jordy. Sometimes she'd call me Wee Jordy. It's sort of a facetious joke because kind of a big guy. So another reason that I love Jordy, smart. He was smart, he was interesting, he had the cool visor, and my grandma nicknamed me after him. Anyways, I'm very happy with this figure. I think the sewing is very good on it. I think the posing is good on it. The fact that we have double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, and all the joints so far feel very stiff and of a level of quality that I'm happy with. The only thing I would have liked is if that seam line that goes over the top of his head was cleaned up maybe a little bit more, or the head was molded differently. And I would have loved it if there was a secondary joint in the neck so I could have his head tilted down a little bit more. But it's suitable for what it is, and I think it's worth it for the price. I'm actually very happy with this figure. I missed out on 7 of 9. I signed up for the pre-order notification, and it went to my junk mail, and I missed it. So I would like to get a 7 of 9 after having this. I think it would be cool to have them together if I can make room in my collection. Like I said, my love of Star Trek obviously started with those 2 shows. I did not grow up watching the original series. I didn't actually start watching any of that until I got a lot older and started seeing references and other things I liked, like Futurama, one of my favorite shows of all time, references Star Trek all the time, and especially references the original series. And a movie I did not see until about 2 months ago. Yes, 2 months ago in the year 2024. I finally saw Star Trek the Motion Picture. I saw every other movie except Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 1. I don't know how it ended up like that, but it just did. I loved Wrath of Khan. I like the one with the whales. I can never remember which number that is. I love all, yes, even Nemesis, all of the Next Generation movies. Forgive me, Trek fans, but I did also enjoy the J.J. Abrams trilogy. I know. It's sacrilege to many of you out there, but I found them fun and entertaining, and I completely accept the fact that it was a separated timeline, the way they set it up in the first one. So it just never bothered me, but I can understand if I grew up watching and completely being in love with the original series, how that would probably frustrate me, because I had that experience with Star Wars. I love Star Wars, and Force Awakens came out. I was like, okay, this is fun. I will give it the benefit of the doubt. Last Jedi came out. Nope, wasn't having it. So I kind of get the understanding of where you might be coming from as to what age you started watching, what series you started watching, who you fell in love with, and when you fell in love with it. I get it. Everyone's going to be coming at it from a different angle, and I think everyone's opinion is to be respected. So trust me, I'm not trying to argue with anybody out there, but tell me in the comments below, what's the best Star Trek series, and what's the best Star Trek character? We all know what it really is. Star Trek is one of those series where I always gravitated towards the characters, the character arcs, and the stories. Even though it was set in this cool sci-fi universe with all this really cool, like, sort of egalitarian philosophy about society and the future and people and alien races and all that. By the way, I didn't say it, but I loved Star Trek the Motion Picture, and I actually got some Futurama jokes, and I didn't fully realize that I didn't get them the first time I saw them because they relate directly back to V'ger. Had no idea. Anyways, Deltans rule. I love Star Trek because of the writing, because of the characters, because of the stories. Picard's amazing, Riker's amazing, Data's amazing, Janeway's amazing, 7 of 9's amazing, the medical hologram's amazing, Dr. Crusher is amazing, Wesley, loved Quark, loved Odo, loved Kira. Like, I loved who they were as people in the world that they were in, and then the fact that it was in space, on these cool spaceships, and they were doing adventures and searching and looking and on these treks, it just made it even better. I really think that my love and sense of adventure and venturing out into the universe, those concepts about what's out there and what's interesting, and whether it's the science of it or the philosophy of it, I can't deny was probably influenced likely by things like Star Trek and, believe it or not, Lego. I had a lot of space Legos, like the Ice Planet Legos. All these things combined to really just influence what I love and why I love it when it comes to secular things. So thank you, Gene Roddenberry, and thank you to everyone who worked on these series. Thank you to EXO-6 for making this really, really cool figure. I look forward to getting at least one more figure, if not a couple more, if Mrs. Willer's workshop will let them slip into the collection and I can make room so that there's a nice, happy marriage between expense and expectation. But let me know what character you'd like to see from EXO-6. If you like figures and you like making things for your figures, that's mostly what I do here on the channel. I make dioramas, I make art, I make miniatures. I love to build things and I like to make tiny worlds, and I like to work on things that remind me of the special effects I love in things like Star Trek and Star Wars. So if you're into that, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Go check out some of my other videos. Go check out my Art in Real Time playlist where I walk you through in real time how to build really large, incredible diorama pieces. And go check out my other unboxings. You might see something you like. Deltans rock. Space, the final frontier. These are the unboxings of Euler's Workshop.